Alrighty, hello every folks, and good morning. Welcome to a update video out of nowhere. Yeah, this wasn't exactly on my Apocalypse Bingo card either. Tor version 1.08 just came out this morning. Now, before you get too terribly excited, it's a pretty darn minor one, but it does kind of give us a little bit of a good sign here that we probably should keep sending in those bug reports for the other oddly specific things that are still going on in Tor, at the very least, so that people stop complaining about them. Okay, so version 1.0.8.0. Kind of weird that they have to have that last O, but whatever. Anyway, basically all it says is that it fixed an issue that prevents the game from progressing upon typing or inputting letters. Now, far as I'm aware, I don't think I've ever actually run into that particular one, despite thousands of hours across multiple versions. But all right, if they say so. Anyway, so I do want to talk about the other stuff that's on here, because immediately there were a few other comments that popped up, just to kind of throw that stuff out there. So there has been one that's repeated several times over track 34, which you're listening to right now and not unlocking for people. So I think the confusion here lies that, if I'm understanding this correctly, this one actually unlocks from doing San Bronza with a no chariot roll thing, since in most cases folks are going in there and essentially just charioting for drops and stuff like that. So there used to be titles in the PSP version. I'm not entirely sure why they decided that those were too difficult and pulled them out of this version. But yeah, no, the whole no chariot thing, it still is required for a few of the songs from what I understand, and that seems to be one of them. So if you went through and you charioted for drops, then just go again and don't do that. Again, maybe the terms for that are different, but from what I understand, it's getting to 15 and completing it without using chariot. That's typically how I play anyway, and it's been unlocked on every version whenever I've gotten there, so I'm assuming that's probably consistent. All right, second thing is going to be the other two. Now, I will say there's actually another bug that I went and submitted, because it's one that I've actually run into. The two main ones that get brought up are, as far as I'm concerned, really oddly specific, and it's a bummer that they're there, but I doubt anyone's going to do anything about them. The one that I've personally run into is that there's actually a crash if you're specifically running a Steam Deck on desktop mode while on handheld mode, that if you shut it down with Tor in the background, that it doesn't like to come back up. So there's that. Now, if you're in handheld mode, and you're just playing in game mode, it doesn't matter. This won't ever be a thing. It's specifically just in desktop mode if you put it to sleep while you're, let's say, editing thumbnails for a video and just happen to have been doing it running in the background. Yeah. It's kind of oddly specific. I think it's exclusive to the Steam Deck here, because I've done this on my laptop and it didn't seem to have an issue, so I think it might be a Steam Deck exclusive, in which case, yeah, they probably won't be bothering to do anything about that. Anyway, the other two, though. So the whole weapon damage, the defense from your it being determined by your primary weapon thing is weird. So I left a note in the update notes here, and I'm sure Recession will be by to explain it in more detail. But for those unfamiliar with what this is, basically there's a oddly specific bug in there that only applies in one situation, which is, again, why it's weird. So basically, when it comes to armor, when you look at enemy armor, when they have gaps in their armor or whatever else, however minor they might be, they work fine. Okay, it's on the player side where basically if you equip the weapon type that corresponds with your armor's highest value, you will use that highest value instead. Now, the thing is, and what I constantly want to bring up about this, is that it really doesn't do anything for you. There's basically no situation in which you'd want to use your resistance there over just having higher hard armor value. So the only time that this actually comes up is, like, let's say in the you're in the post game or whatever else, you've got beast units, their attacks count as crushing attacks, and so you might give them, a ring that counts as a crushing attack or what have you. I think for birds it might count as pierce attacks, I forget, but either way, explaining that poorly. Anyway, main takeaway from the whole thing is just specifically only when the player's units are being hit by stuff, the percentage reduction strictly for physical damage only, so this is, again, your slash stab crush defense, is going to use the same value as your main hand weapon. If you don't have anything in that hand, it's just crush. If you, for example, switch out for a weapon of that type, you essentially use that resistance type. Now, again, there's almost no situations that this is actually particularly useful. I've tried using it extensively in challenge runs. You're better off just going for the stats in most situations. But if you're, again, in like ultra post game, you're trying to min max with a random scattering of relics that just happen to have rolled one particular stat over and over, then yeah, it might be a useful thing to potentially use, specifically against stuff that hits particularly hard, because those bonuses don't always even get a chance to kick in. Anyway, so that's, again, one that's so weird to describe that it's probably a complete non-issue, because even describing it gives me a headache. The other one that comes up here is going to be the what's typically known as the two-hander bug. So basically what this is, it's kind of unclear, as far as I'm concerned, whether it's a bug in one direction or a bug in the other direction. Specifically when it comes to spells, if a spell is used in a super effective manner, it will essentially add your weapon's bonus damage as extra damage. Specifically your elemental bonus damage, if either you or the spell are super effective versus that particular unit. So it'll essentially add it if there's nothing higher to add. Which, I mean, it's sure, okay, it's a little benefit in some situations, but the weirdness doesn't end there, because it's also a situation in which two-handed weapons will not be applying their int or mind bonuses or that elemental bonus whenever they're used for spells. And this really mostly comes up for things like, let's say you were using a Lord with a no toss or something, and you wanted to use them to cast Apocryphas, and it's like, oh wait, they're a bit weaker because he's using this two-hander. And this is, again, one of those things that, yeah, it's probably a bug, but it's also one of these situations where, given the weirdness of how they design these games, I wouldn't be shocked if it was like literally just a case of like, oh wait, they're using both hands, I guess they're a bit clumsier now. Like, never attribute to bugs when these games are already designed in a super weird manner. So yeah, it's probably a bug, but I want to point out another thing, that there's a lot of evidence to the contrary, in that the same bonus doesn't apply if, for example, a unit is using a weapon and has nothing in its offhand, which you'll notice the player has no reason to do, but the AI will do for a lot of its generic units. So I think that one might have just been a sort of a balancing convenience thing, in which they were scared that, like, a unit is going to come in, let's say, using their leveled up equipment, and they might get some crazy bonus that people weren't expecting, and so instead they just said, okay, look, that bonus gets shut off in this situation that the player has no reason to do, but the AI, we can just kind of program to do it, if that makes sense. So, it might be that, I don't know. Either way, they tried to address the whole two-handed part of it thing a couple of years ago. Maybe it was a year and a half ago. I don't know. But it seems like it was unfixable. So I forget exactly what the tweets had said, but it was something along the lines of, they did something, there wasn't anything that could really be done about it. It resulted in the Knight Commander weapons getting deleted. And if that seems really weird to you, again, the same example I put in the post came up here, where Alistair, who makes a bunch of mods for this game, was going and making a mod to specifically remove experience gains for anyone that wanted to do a no level up run, and yeah, sure enough, it ended up going and essentially reversing several of the stats on Cashua's necklace exclusively. Like, this game has really weird butterfly effects because everything's all tied together. So sometimes stuff just gets weird and it may not be fixable. So anyways, that just kind of throwing that out there for context. But yeah, 1.08 is out. Just let me know if you've ever run into this, I guess. Yeah, kind of oddly specific. We've talked about next to nothing about the actual patch itself. Anyway, that's about that. Y'all have yourselves a good one, and yeah, take care.